Caution. You are about to enter the no-spin zone. Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The truth and ideology, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Last night on The Factor, we told you the truth. That coerced interrogation, most likely waterboarding, gave the CIA the first clue that led to Osama bin Laden's death. That is the truth. Yet many on the left in America will not acknowledge it. Case in point, our pal Alan Colmes, who simply will not admit that coerced interrogation protects Americans. Yesterday, Colmes pointed to former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, who, Colmes said, denied that coerced interrogation gave the CIA valuable intelligence.
No, you don't believe the Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld? You don't believe him?
I don't.
Why not?
Because I have not questioned him. If Rumsfeld wants to come on tomorrow night and sit there, I will question him, and then when he says something, I will decide whether to believe it or not. I'm not going to take a second-rate, secondary source on Rumsfeld.
Secondary source?
I'm not going to take.
Why would he be a secondary source?
Because he didn't answer my direct question.
So only if he talks to you is he a secondary source?
He didn't talk to you either. You're taking it from a secondary source. And that's exactly what happens, and as it turns out, Colmes was wrong, and Secretary Rumsfeld will be here in a moment. Now, it is extremely frustrating to watch pundits and politicians put ideology above the safety of you, the American people. And that's what's happening. CIA Chief Leon Panetta, an honest guy, admitted that coerced interrogation gave the U.S. government vital information.
Some valuable information did in fact come from enhanced interrogation techniques.
Obviously, there was some valuable information that was derived through those kinds of interrogations, but I guess the question that everybody will always debate is whether or not those approaches had to be used in order to get the same information, and that, frankly, is an open question.
Okay, because Mr. Panetta works for President Obama, he has to say that. He has to hedge a bit. Well, we don't know exactly how much information we might have got, could have maybe, had we not dunked the guys in the water, the three guys. Okay, fine. I understand the game. I understand Mr. Panetta's position. But again, the truth is that enhanced interrogation does lead to life-saving information, despite what has been said.
We do not torture, period. The reason this is important is not only because torture does not end up yielding good information. Most intelligence officers agree with that.
I do not think the United States government sanctioning torture is in our best interest. I do not think torture works.
Can you, Mr. Vice President, ever envision a time when waterboarding should be used on anyone?
No.
No.
No. It's not effective.
Well, now we know the Vice President is wrong. It is effective. Coerced interrogation led in part to the death of bin Laden. But this debate will not go quietly into the night because ideologues rarely admit they're wrong. On a personal note, I like Alan Colmes. He's a good guy. I think he makes a good debate partner with Monica Crowley. But as I've told Colmes to his face, his ideology is hurting his analysis. You have to have some kind of objectivity in life if you want to be taken seriously. Nearly 15 years ago, when I started The Factor, I told you that I would give you the truth as I know it, and that I would back up what I say with facts. We have done that once again with coerced interrogation. However, it is not a tool to be used lightly. Only the president should be able to order it, but it can and has worked. And in this case, Osama bin Laden is dead partly because of it. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, let's bring in the aforementioned Donald Rumsfeld. Mr. Secretary, I apologize you're in the middle of this. I didn't inject you into it, but obviously you are. And I have a number of simple questions. As you know, I am a simple man. Number one, how do you feel about Alan Colmes and others on the left using you to make their assertions against coerced interrogation?
Well, it was the first time I've ever heard of Alan Colmes using me to support a position of his. But the fact is that the information was garbled. I think what I said was that there was no waterboarding at Guantanamo, and somebody else said that a Guantanamo detainee who had been waterboarded provided important information. and the connection created a disconnect, because the people who were waterboarded were 3 people by the CIA, none of whom were waterboarded at Guantanamo, and none of whom were waterboarded by the military.
Right.
Now,
and so okay, so there was confusion about the context of your remarks, which happens, as you know, all the time. All the time. And it was seized upon by Allen and others on the left to say, you know what, even Rumsfeld says it didn't it. But I said, quite responsibly, I believe, that since I had not talked to you directly, I'm not taking some secondary source that, as you said, garbled up what your original marks were. Now, the most important thing. You just heard Barack Obama, Secretary of State Clinton, and Vice President Biden say flat out that coerced interrogation doesn't work. We now know that is false. It does work, correct?
Unquestionably, it works. And the problem I have with the discussion thus far is that people are equating waterboarding with torture. And I think that's a mistake. The President of the United States authorized the waterboarding. It was done to 3 people by the CIA, not by the military, and it produced an enormous amount of very, very valuable intelligence information by the testimony of George Tenet, by the testimony of the CIA Director Mike Hayden, and by others who've had a chance to review the information.
How about you? Did you see that intel?
Yeah, I've certainly been made aware of the intelligence information that came from those sources and others.
Okay, that being said then, you cited 2 names in the CIA and yourself as primary sources that coerced interrogation provided information that protected America. Correct? Am I correct on that? Okay, you provided the sources, and your sourcing is correct. So
well,
then,
you quoted Panetta.
Right, and we saw what Leon Panetta said about this incident. Okay, now, so then you hear the President, Vice President, Secretary of State flat out deny what it looks to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. That worries me.
Well, in my view, we very likely would not have captured or killed Osama bin Laden had we not had the intelligence information we had.
Okay, but does that worry you that the top 3 people in the government are saying, you know, even though Rumsfeld and everybody else, Tenet, says it, we still don't believe it? Doesn't that worry you?
Did they say that recently or when they were senators?
No, but they didn't repudiate it. They should have come out and said, hey, I was wrong. This intel, instead, the talking points from Washington, it was a mosaic. It was a mosaic of information. They're bending over like pretzels, trying to get away from the coerced interrogation deal. You know what they're doing out there. It's the Washington spin around.
Well, of course, it is a mosaic in a sense that you take pieces of information, and no one in isolation is determinative, but taken together, it produces the outcome. And if some of that, as Director Panetta says, came from the enhanced interrogations, the waterboarding, then in fact the mosaic would not have produced the outcome, and you would not have been able to get Osama bin Laden.
But you're not going to get that admission from this administration, are you?
Maybe not. Although, in fact, what they've done is they've reversed themselves on most of the things they attacked during the campaign. On indefinite detention, Guantanamo Bay, military commissions, the Patriot Act, all of these things they campaigned against. And yet now, once they're governing, they I think, realized that those are things that President Bush's administration put in place, and they're protecting the American people.
I hope so. Now, I think, Mr. Secretary, to be fair, you and I have to take Holmes out for dinner, since he made us look good at the expense of himself. All right, the book is Known and Unknown. Mr. Secretary, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you.